Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. This is Jessica with I Read to Relax. It is Christmas Eve and I am home alone at the moment, so I thought it was a great time to go ahead and film my favorite and least favorite books of every month so far this year. It is still about a week out from the end of the year, and I definitely will be reading at least one more book. If not, I'm hoping two before the end of the year. So there's always a chance that one of those will upend my favorite for the month of December, but this is where we stand right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm just gonna put all the covers up on the screen rather than pulling out books, because some I have in my collection, some I read as ebooks, some I donated after I read them because they weren't my favorite. So we'll just do all the covers right over here. Let's start out at the beginning of the year. So in January, I read, I think, 9 books, and my favorite was A Promise of Lies by Claire Sager, and this was book 3 in the Secrets of the Tenebrous Court trilogy. Epic end to the trilogy. I can't go into a lot of detail because it is the 3rd book and finishes the series. It is a paranormal, steamy, fast-paced romantasy with like court intrigue, and there's a shadow daddy, and there were a lot of things to love about this one. The first book utterly hooked me, and then they just kept getting better. My least favorite of the month, and it was not in any way that I didn't enjoy this one, I just didn't love it as much as the rest of the books in the month, because it was a great reading month to start off the year. But it was The Absinthe Earl, which is the first book in this trilogy. It was good. I just really enjoyed books 2 and 3 more than this particular one. So it's sort of like a steampunk fairy adventure. It had a good romance, but again, it just didn't like blow my socks off. So I will admit right now, February and March were pretty sparse. I hit a massive book slump, and it is the first book slump that I've really had as a grown adult. I just did not want to read. I was really struggling. I did start the Brandon Sanderson Stormlight Archive audiobooks in this period, and that, I think, is what helped me read anything during these 2 months. But that's also why they're my 2 favorites for the months. But for February, my favorite was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This starts the Stormlight Archive, and it is massively full of world building. You get introduced to the different characters. It's just a very masterful way to sort of start the series. I got really immersed, really heavy into it, and part of that is because my husband had already read them, and so we were able to talk about them consistently. I did not have a least favorite book this month. All of 4 of the books that I read, I really, really enjoyed. It was just such a small amount for me because I think I picked up and put down several books that I tried and just couldn't get into. So I only read what I was really interested in. So we're just gonna skip least favorite for February. For March, book 2 in the Stormlight Archive, Words of Radiance, was my favorite of the month. And so far, this is my favorite of the entire series. So we started out great in March. My least favorite was Secrets of the Forgotten Heir. And this is the start of a new series, and I just didn't quite click with it. It's an author that I really, really love, co-writing with another author I had never read before. And I love Heather G. Harris's books in general. I think she's a fantastic urban fantasy author. This series just didn't, like I said, grip me the way that her other ones had, and I don't know if it was the co-writing or just the mood that I was in. April, I dove back into the Green Creek Saga by TJ Klune, and my favorite of the month was Ravensong. This series kills me every time. They are each male paranormal romances with wolf shifters, and oh my god, are they good. I loved Ravensong. It ripped my heart out and put it back together in the best way possible. So, yes. And sadly, a book I was very excited for but just did not do it for me was Ilhara, The Last Myrisar. This one is by a couple of indie authors who I follow on Bookstagram. They're sisters, and I was really excited when this one was coming out, and then when I finally read it, it just didn't stand out enough for me. It didn't feel like there was anything new or fresh. I hate saying that. This wasn't the book for me. In May, I read what I truly believe is my #1 book of the entire year. My favorite book in May was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This is the first one of the duology, and it blew my ever-loving socks off. A Study in Drowning is lyrical and sweeping and beautiful and tragic and feminist and so many things. It's got that dark academia vibe. It's got that like angsty fairy tale, dark, twisted vibe. It's got a romance. That book was perfection for me. I still think about it. It will be with me for a long time. My least favorite in the month of May was A Rebel Without Claws by Juliet Cross. And this is the first book in the Southern Charm spin-off series from her original series. Oh Lord, I can't remember the series title. I'll put the original series title down here. The original series, there are sisters and they are all witches, and it's each a romance for them, and they're all great. They're all great. They're all strong. I loved them all in different ways. And I was really, really excited for this spin-off because it's sort of the next generation. I think I just went in with too high expectations. So again, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. So that was a little disappointing. Oh my God, halfway through the year. My favorite book of the month was Neverthorn by Shannon Mayer. This is the start of a new series, and it is that dark academia, twisted fairy tale kind of thing again. But one of the things I really loved about this book was that the main character is older. She's closer to 30. She's been out of school for quite a while, and she gets sucked back in. They pull her back in. They literally force her to come back to Neverthorn. There's a big prophecy, and they're trying. It's a fun read. And then sadly, and please don't come for me, but I'm so nervous to say this out loud, but my least favorite book of the month of June was actually Onyx Storm, book 3 in the Fourth Wing series. Onyx Storm I don't know. It was a book that, like, when I was reading, I was into it. But the second I put the book down, I didn't want to pick it up again. And I didn't really, it didn't stick with me. It was, like, the writing itself is compelling, which is why when I was in the midst of reading, I'd be in. But then, like I said, the storyline didn't do much for me. The twist didn't do much for me. Like, I'm honestly torn about whether or not I'm going to read the next book in the series. Moving into the second half of the year, in July, my favorite book was Thorns and Fire by Helen Schurer. This is book 2 in the Ashes of Thesmar series. I love the main character in this spin-off series because she is an alchemist. So she's a poisoner, she's sort of a scientist, and it's in sort of like a medieval high fantasy world. So a lot of attention is paid to like the warriors and the people that are fighting the monsters in their world. But then you have Ren, and she goes to like the Alchemist Academy and has to do trials, and then like she has this epic freaking love story. But I just love that she is smart and kind of nerdy and also deadly and ferocious in her own way. She is such a great main character. And then my least favorite of the month, I decided to sort of go outside my comfort zone. Been wanting to branch out a little more into like contemporary thrillers. I still don't think they're my full bag, but like, you know, something different once in a while. And so I read Bad Summer People, and it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't my favorite. I don't really love books where you jump from person to person to person to person to person. And this book was definitely that. I do think it was cleverly done here, where every time you jumped perspective, you also jumped forward in the story and you got a different piece that sort of pieced everything together as you went along. But it just isn't my favorite style. So August, I had 2 favorites that I want to share because they were like neck and neck for what my favorite was of the month. The first one is the one I officially decided on as being my favorite, and that was Sweets and Sycamores. This one is a beautiful, cozy, witchy, slow burn romance. I say slower burn, not a full-blown slow burn, but they don't immediately dive into activities, so a little bit more yearning and tenderness and build and whatever. But I wanted to jump into this book and live there. But I also think that there was a lot of great character growth. The main character had to like learn about her self-worth, and like it was about really like resilience and growing, and there was great like consent and other relationship things going on here as well. And there's a cute little baby dragon sidekick. It just had so much going for it. I really love this book. I can't wait to reread it at some point. And then my backup, which, like I said, almost these 2 were like neck and neck, is The Unseen Hour by Silas Reams. This is the first in sort of a new style for this author, and I loved it. It's sort of that like gothic fantasy vibe. This one takes place in a world where on essentially like New Year's Eve, there is a short period of time they call the unseen hour, where like anyone who's outside just, you know, and they don't know how they've been cursed, what's happening, why. But our main character's father had disappeared, and they assume he was taken by the unseen hour, but they never found the body. So she determines that she's gonna go and like be out during this year's unseen hour and find him. This one again has a sweeping love story. It's got a very cool concept. She ends up in like the realm of shades. It was great. I can't wait for more like that from this author. And then my least favorite was another one that I was so sure I was gonna love, and I was so disappointed. This one is Obsidian by K.F. Breene, and it's a spin-off from a series that I absolutely loved. I loved the Demigods of San Francisco series. And this main character in this book is a side character from the original series, and she was amazing. And I just, oh, I'm gonna say it, I hated this one. I wanted it to be something and it just wasn't. And I had to really push myself to finish this one. I just didn't, it did not do it for me. And okay, in September, I had another one of my top reads of the entire year. This is The Exorcism of Fairies by J.L. Vampa, and I loved this one. It is dark academia, dark twisty fairy perfection. This one has a stellar romance. It's got a creepy, like, secret society at the school where they're studying dead bodies. There's a epic plague that's just killing off loads of people here. And it all ties back to dark fairies, which I love. Oh my God. I figured out my thing this year has been dark academia with fairies. If it's got those two elements, I am all in this year. So I need more. I need more like that. But yeah, The Exorcism Fairies, oh, so good. My least favorite was How to Outwit a Wizard by Amy Boyles. This is book 2 in this series, and I honestly, like, I vlogged about this one, and I was trying to remember how different books 1 and 2 were, because I thought I really remembered liking book 1, and this one, like, there was some, like, it kept throwing me off. It was steamy in a weird way I didn't need it to be. Like, it was obsessive about just smut, and I did not enjoy it the way that I wanted to. It kept throwing me out of the story, honestly, so that was a real disappointment. October is another month where I have 2 favorites I want to share. Very different, and again, it was sort of neck and neck, but I ultimately decided that my top favorite for the month of October was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte I think it's McConaughey. So this book, Wild Dark Shore, surprised the heck out of me. Again, I was trying to read sort of outside of my normal comfort zone, and I'm so glad I picked this one up. I can't wait to try more from this author. She's got a couple other books that sound very similar in, like, tone and theme, and I'm dying to read them in 2026. But Wild Dark Shore is I would say it's an environmental mystery thriller, contemporary fiction. I don't know the best way to describe it. You kind of just have to read it, but it's set in a very, very, very remote island off the coast of, like, Antarctica. And there is this family, a father and his 3 children, that are the keepers of the lighthouse on this island. It opens with a body washing up on the shore and then unfolds from there. I can't tell you much more because it will ruin it and you really need to experience it, but I will say it would be one to read the trigger warnings because there are some deep, heavy themes, but I was utterly compelled reading this book. It is short chapters, short overall, and yet, like, it was the type of book that I was purposely reading very slowly because I wanted to gobble it up from start to finish in one sitting. And I was like, no, I'm enjoying this so much. It's written so beautifully and it's touching me in the right way that I want to experience it multiple times. So I actually broke it up over 3 nights. And I'm still, it's another one that I'm still thinking about. And like I cried as I was reading it, and it was just so good. So good. The other book that I almost picked for this month, because again, another one of my top favorites of the entire year, is actually book 2 in a series. So I'm going to be careful how I talk about it, but it's Princess of Blood by Sarah Hawley. And this is the sequel to Servant of Earth. So I'm going to actually talk about Servant of Earth rather than Princess of Blood. But Servant of Earth is about a girl who lives in like this tiny little village. They live in this society where there are fae in their own kingdom, sort of adjacent. And the people, like the religion of the town, worships the fae. And so they have this ceremony where they pick, it's like a lottery, to be chosen. The eligible women of town are like, some of them are chosen to go to the fae and they have to traipse across the bog and they're going to be welcomed in and given riches and blah, 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 whatever, which is not what it turns out to be. But our main character, her best friend gets chosen and she is like, hell no, you're not going. I'm gonna save you and we're gonna run away together and go live our lives. And so she secretly sets out across the bog with these girls who have been sent. And without giving too much away, she ends up in the Fae realm under a very, very cruel king, and has been forced now to become a servant to the Earth House, their royal family. And there is a set of trials that when the fairies reach a certain age, they have to undertake these trials, and if they pass, they're given their full magic. They gain power, they gain status, they gain wealth. If they can't pass, and that's it. Book 1, stellar. Book 2, even better. Even better. And the way book 2 ended, I can't tell you how fast I pre-ordered book 3 the second it was announced. It was like last week, and I was like, click, buy, yes, immediately. Put it in my hands ASAP. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Bringing myself back down. My least favorite for the month of October was another one that I was strangely disappointed. I had really thought this would be just a nice, cozy, wonderful read, and it just primarily bored me. It was Rewitched. And again, like, the premise was good. Parts of it were very cozy. But like, it was almost so low stakes that I felt completely uninvested until like the last, I don't know, 10%, 15% of the book. And the end was great. But overall, I just was very disappointed. November, I read Nightshade by Autumn Woods, and I loved this book. Another one of my top 5 of the year. This one is the start of, I think it's a duology. Excuse me, and I've pre-ordered the second one already. Very excited for that in 2026. Sorrow Song University. But this one is dark academia with like a modern mafia Romeo and Juliet vibes twist in the Scottish Highlands. It is definitely read the trigger warnings for this one, because there's a lot of deep like emotional triggers there. But oh my God, I ripped through this book, ripped through it. This was one I almost stayed up overnight to read because I literally could not put it down. And it takes a lot nowadays because I'm getting older. It takes a lot for me to stay up like all night to read. But this book, I had to force myself to put it down with like, I don't know, 60 pages to go, and I almost cried because I really wanted to finish it. The disappointment of this month really was, it was another that I just wanted it to be so much more, and it wasn't, and that was Gully Washer by Kimbra Swain. And this is another one that it's like into a series. It's book 5. Books 1 through 4 were all great. Books 1 through 3 I listened to as audiobooks, and I think that enhanced the experience. Book 4 I read as an ebook like I did book 5. But book 4 ended on this big epic moment, and it felt really good and satisfying. And this book, book 5, really felt like when you have a poorly written trilogy and you have book 2 as just like a filler. And you're like, there was no point to this book. It's just taking up space. That's what this book felt like for me. It didn't even give me like a hook to want to come back to book 6. So yeah, that might be sort of the end of this series for me. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, and thank you so much for sticking with me, it is not quite the end of December yet, and I always hesitate to name like my favorite book of the month before the month is over, but I also know there's only a week left and I know what I'm planning to read. And so I'm fairly confident that these will remain. But again, I have 2 books that I want to mention as favorites in December. And then I do have one that's not a favorite. But the first favorite is just because it's so fun. This one is not my top favorite, but the runner-up. This is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. So my husband also hooked me on to reading this series, and I'm doing it via audiobook, and the audiobook is phenomenal. That's why really it hit this. It's a post-apocalyptic series where the Earth has been invaded by aliens, and the remaining survivors are being forced to compete in sort of like a televised fight for survival. The narration for this audiobook is amazing. The storyline is fast and fun, and it's amazing how it is a horrible storyline. It's a horrible concept, like that basically the survivors of Earth are just being picked off. But there's like a sarcastic levity that brings everything sort of like what could be just utterly tragic and horrific and whatever is sort of tempered by the humor and the ridiculousness. The other book, which is I think my favorite of the month, I'm pretty sure, is The Book Club Hotel by Sarah Morgan. Every year I have 2 holiday books that I always read. One is a Sarah Morgan novel. Just hit me absolutely the right way every year because they're not just like a Hallmark style Christmas movie story. It's really more, it's deeper than that. They're either family stories or they're like friendship stories, and yes, there's romance. They're great holiday romances, but it's also so much more than that. So in this one, it's sort of pre-Christmas, like mid-December. But Hattie, the owner of the inn, is a very young widow with a young child, and she's really struggling because her husband's only been dead for a few years and she's not coping well, and she's trying to maintain this inn and, you know, is just having a rough time. And then the other main characters are 3 friends, Erica, Anna, and Claudia, who are all having their own issues. But they get together once a year. They've been friends since college. They're now just about turning 40. And these three women meet for a week every year to have like a book club vacation, which I think is a fabulous idea. They go, they talk about the book, they get together, you know, it's just like it refreshes each of them for a year. And Anna has twins who are about to go to college, and she's struggling already with the idea of empty nest. Claudia not only got out of a 10-year-long relationship unwillingly, but then was let go from her job, so she is completely adrift. And Erica is a very successful businesswoman who does like consulting, has like no interest in relationships, and has a secret that is the reason why she wants to go to this specific inn. Everybody's issues come to the forefront and get resolved, and there were a few things that obviously, like, I knew from very early in the book how it was going to turn out, but the way that it unfolded was beautiful. And again, like, the way the author works through all of those things, just, I mean, I was listening to this one as I was driving back and forth to work and like tearing up and having to like dab my eyes and smiling and laughing. And it was great. Oh, I hate ending off on a disappointing book, but that's okay, I guess. My disappointing book for December, I just did a rapid review video of. This Is How You Lose the Time War. And I really thought I was gonna love this book. And it's a novella, and so I was like, oh, this will be great for December. We'll throw it in there. We'll get an extra read in. And I really, really struggled with this one. It took me way longer to read than I expected. And I was glad I had read reviews ahead, so I knew a little bit what to expect. I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I did a rapid review you can watch, but overall, like, I found each individual chapter of that book to be beautiful and interesting, but I hated the way it came together. It didn't do it for me. And I've seen so many people love it when they push through, and I got to the end and I was like, I kind of wish I hadn't read it. I feel so bad saying that, but overall, the novella didn't work for me. I would read each individual chapter as its own piece of literature. I just didn't like the way the story all worked. So, yeah. Yeah, so those were sort of my highs and lows of every month this year. Did we share any of the same favorite books this year? Did we have any of the same disappointments? Feel free to leave me a comment. And like I said, I think my absolute favorite book of the entire year was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid, which I read back in the summer. No, it was pre-summer. It was May, and it was fantastic. That's definitely, without a doubt, top of my list. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking with me. This is a much longer video than usual, but we did talk about more than 24 books. So there you go. I will see you guys soon. And yeah, happy reading.